Lieber Herr Professor Hirzinger, sehr verehrte Damen und Herren, es ist wunderschön, hier zu sein. Fellow roboticists, colleagues, scientists, engineers, industrialists, students, and very welcome guests. I also want to offer a special warm welcome to the millions of people who may be participating in this through the live video feed that we have going. This is a scientific talk, so I want to start with an important scientific fact, and it's about the human brain. And that important scientific fact is that after the next 24 hours, you'll have forgotten 50% of what I'm telling you today. This is how the brain works, it's a fact. Also, 24 hours after that, after 48 hours, you will have forgotten another 50%. Well, it doesn't mean you will have forgotten everything. For the math wizards out there, that's like 50% of 50%, so you'll have retained about 25%. But that was the last thing. Was a joke, of course. I forgot one part. After another 24 hours, it's the third piece of the scientific research. Some of you will swear that you have never been here. So that last part was a joke, but the first two are correct. Now, knowing that, and given that we have just about only 20 minutes left, I'll keep my message and the story extremely simple. And it's very much in tune with the motto of the Symposium, with the spirit of DLR, which is, let's all together, you and me and all of us roboticists, get down to earth and field robots. So all get down to earth and field robots. There'll be more to that. But first, I want to get back to the brain. You know, it's a little forgetful, especially I'm totally jet lagged, so I barely know what I'm talking about right now. But our brains are really good at some things. And I want to start the next slide showing you something that Dr. Rodney Brooks showed in a recent conference at Robo Business in Boston, talking about how wonderful our brains are in terms of perception. So I need your help with that. So this is a little tough to see on the screen, you know, but it sure looks great on that screen. So what do you all see here? What is that? What do you perceive? Chessboard, checkerboard, with some green cylinder sitting on top of it. So I wanted to pay attention in particular to these two squares, this black A tile and this white B tile. Black A tile, white B tile. So this shows you how amazing our perception is, because the two tiles are exactly the same color. You wouldn't believe that, right? I mean, I didn't believe it. I looked at that. No way. They're white and black. So to help you, this next slide, this is all provided by Edward Adelson from MIT. That helps you put these two bars here to connect to these two squares. Again, it's a little hard to see on this not very high contrast screen, that the two are the same color. And I still didn't quite believe it, because it still looks a little bit different shade of gray. So I took that same picture and I cropped out the two tiles and put them right next to each other. There's no doubt they're exactly the same color. So let's go back again. This is where we started. Black tile A, white tile B. I mean, this is just an example of how amazing our perception is. And that's combining amazing eyeballs, lots of pixels coming in, together with the brain dealing with all and trying to make sense out of the world. And this is just a very simple toy example that we do all the time in much more complicated circumstances. So our brains are maybe forgetful, but they do amazing things in other areas. So what's the whole point of this? The point is, this is one of the hard problems to solve, and robotics is still far from doing perception like we do. And there are other hard problems, like teaching humanoids to dance and sit down, motion planning, artificial intelligence, dynamic leg locomotion in rough terrain, all very hard problems. We should keep studying those for the next 10 years, 50 years. But let's take all the great stuff we have that we've developed over the last 50 years And many of those examples Professor Hitzinger showed us, because those are already good enough to put together in the right combination to solve some real needs in robotics today. So in this talk, I want to give you some examples from iRobot and a few other companies just around the Boston area who are living according to the spirit and doing exactly that. And I'm sure there are many other examples around here. And I would like us to take that as sort of an inspiration to get robots out there, and so we can take the past 50 years of technology development and turn together in the next 50 years to a robotic success story, taking robots into mass market applications, making this world a better place. I'm working with iRobot. iRobot is sort of the poster child of making practical robots. In fact, it's the largest publicly traded company that's sort of a pure play robotics company. We make nothing but robots. Founded in 1990, we've been around for 21 years already, but the last 10 years really have been phenomenal in the sense that we've been able to develop successful icon products like the PackBot and the Roomba robotic vacuum cleaner. We sold over 4,000 of this series and over 6 million of the Roombas, and in terms of the Roombas, we still haven't really scratched the surface in terms of market penetration. The mission of the company is twofold. One, remote presence for the government robots, and automated home maintenance for the home robots. And I won't go into details what all these robots are to save a little time. Just to say that here we have a whole series of robots, and the mission is to put distance between harm and people, between danger and our soldiers, between bombs and police and first responders, between radiation and relief workers. Remote presence. There are lots of applications for that. And we do that in a variety of platforms, all the way from a throwable 5-pound platform that we just developed called First Look, the staple PackBot series that we've been selling since 2002, the small unmanned ground vehicles, 30-pound, and very recently we have commercialized the much larger 350-pound Warrior. We also have a couple of robots. These are sea gliders in the underwater space. A beautiful example, this is an old video that I love to show, is an example of the let's get down to earth and field robots. This is Roomba. The company was able to take some theoretical ideas from computer science, subsumption architecture by Rodney Brooks, together with simple sensors, reactive controls, and identify a market niche that did something of value to millions of people. Vacuum their floors. In 2002 already, the company was able to field completely autonomous, self-contained, sort of intelligent robot that completely autonomously vacuumed people's floors and returned to the dock when it was done or the battery was running low. One nice thing about fielding things early and often is that the market will do extensive research and testing for you. At this point, I usually like to show a fun video of a cat riding on a Roomba, and I encourage you all to do that. There's hilarious cat on Roomba videos. This time, I want to show you some serious field testing that shows some of the abuse and rigor that our products see in the living room floor. By the way, this is not an approved use of our product, and had to go through many iterations to be able to perform this function. And I believe that it's mostly the fathers who do this stuff and send us those videos. Moving over to the government and industrial side, here's a quick snapshot of some of the robots in action. This is PackBot driving around in dirt, SugV climbing stairs. Our robots are used by police and first responders. There are lots of bomb threats, also saving lives in the military. We do research projects with precision placement. This is the Negotiator robot we sell primarily to police and first responders, a research platform for navigation and SLAM, sea glider underwater, unmanned surface vehicle. This is our Sea Ranger underwater vehicle, and this is the Warrior 350-pound platform, very fast, very rugged, with a very high-strength arm. Another interesting thing that happens is that initially, these tracked robots were primarily used for explosive ordnance disposal, but now they're increasingly used to put eyes on target, for reconnaissance, to look around the corner, to go ahead. And this really also saves lives because for the soldiers, it allows them to shoot second, meaning to not shoot, to go in and actually save the other guys, the bad guy's life, because before the mission, the ConOps or the operation was, when there was some bad guys in there, more likely than not, they got killed in the process. With these robots, they could be actually safely detained because you can't afford to shoot second. So it saves lives all around. More than half of our casualties in Iraq and Afghanistan, if American and British casualties, are due to improvised explosive devices, roadside bombs, like the one you see in this video clip. This was from one of many, many occurrences just happened in Kirkuk. There were 6 people killed and dozens maimed and injured. So our robots are in there working with the bomb disposal teams to safely find, investigate, and render safe those bombs. And in the process, save many lives. It's hard to say that, but they probably have saved thousands of lives. In 2002, there were no robots fielded with EOD teams. Today, there's not a single EOD team out there that doesn't have at least one robot. So they've become part of the standard operating procedure. And it's especially deep for me and important to know that the robots we work on are out there saving lives every day. I mean, what more higher value task can we do with our robots? This robot that came back, nobody had to write a letter to this robot's mother. It's very easy to replace robots. They're used extensively. By, I think the number as of last year was, robots like the PackBot have been used over 50,000 times in 50,000 roadside missions. Just imagine the good and life-saving activities this has provided. Having these robots available, they're rugged, they have gone through many iterations, much money went into developing them, they're easy to use, they're fully supported. Now we're in a situation also to come to help when disaster strikes, when duty calls. And we did that in 9/11 together with other robot companies. At that time, DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, literally took dozens of robots out of research labs and brought them to the New York disaster site to help look for survivors, go into contaminated areas, or enter partially collapsed buildings. 9/11 was really a watershed event for robotics. Before then, no robots really have ever been used in disaster scenarios. After 9/11, they have been used in every single disaster that happened, deployed on the ground, in the air, and underwater. Talking about underwater, many of you will still have vividly in their memories the accident that led to an explosion of the Deepwater Horizon rig. Last year, 11 workers died. After everything was said and done, 200 million gallons of oil spilled into the Gulf of Mexico. And all this action and the leak happened at an incredible depth of 5,000 feet. Very difficult to get to. There's no human divers that can operate there. So there were literally dozens of robots in operation down there at 5,000 feet, putting eyes on target, helping to figure out how to plug the leak, and actually helping to plug it. At the same time, there were questions and actually some controversy. Where was all the oil, all those 200 million gallons? Some could be accounted for, but the suspicion was there were giant oil plumes floating in the Gulf of Mexico. We had the technology, the Sea Glider that you see here, that we could bring to bear on this. Shortly after the disaster, a couple of highly motivated folks from our North Carolina office simply took the initiative without anybody requesting, threw a Sea Glider on the back of the pickup truck, drove down to Louisiana, deployed the thing, and we did over 330 dives and worked with local scientists to analyze the data to help settle the controversy that yes, there were giant oil plumes, and then help monitor the contamination, where the oil was, or how much oil there was, where the oil was, and then monitor over time how the oil density and the occurrence was developing. So this was a very important contribution to monitoring the disaster and helping also guide the cleanup efforts. More recently, again, duty called. Japan was struck by this unimaginable tragedy, a triple tragedy of an earthquake, tsunami, and then a nuclear meltdown. Our heart goes out to our friends in Japan. They lost 15,000 people. This was also the first time in history that there was a triple meltdown. 3 reactor cores all melted down. We got a request from the Japanese self-defense forces for some support, some robotic support. Within 26 hours, had we modified, customized 2 Warriors and 2 PackBots and shipped them off to Japan. And courtesy our existing relations with Japan and for other business connections, it was possible for us to more quickly than anybody else ship our robots there. Here are a couple of videos. The one on the left is an early video showing how the PackBots, they were the first robots that go inside the reactor buildings and brought back some invaluable data. Invaluable data because it was the first time people could actually see what it looked like inside using the video feeds from the robots. They had sensor payloads because our robots have a module payload bay to add temperature and radiation monitoring. So the robots were able to make maps of the distribution of radiation, the distribution of temperature. Take video shots like here of this broken steam venting pipe with very high radiation. In fact, some of our sensors on PackBot measured record radiation of 4,000 millisieverts per hour. 4,000 millisieverts per hour. Do you know what the maximum allowable human exposure is? That's 50 millisieverts per year. So you can imagine that how difficult and how dangerous it is to go in there. And this is a perfect application for robots. Some of these videos, again, hard to see, but these are available on websites as well, show some more recent, these are only 2 weeks old. Now the TEPCO folks there and the people operating with the disaster mitigation effort, operating these robots, both Warriors and PackBots together, working together inside the reactors to clean up. In fact, the Warrior was fitted with a giant vacuum hose, so it looked like a giant Roomba vacuum, and was sucking up radioactive water and debris to bring down the radiation levels. So the robots have been deployed for just over 6 months, and they're still working reliably and rendering good service. In fact, the operators are so happy with them that they just ordered 2 more PackBots. So you wonder, how is it possible that these robots keep running? They're not radiation hardened, not space hardened. They're military grade, but they're certainly not radiation proof, and they just keep on going. And with these extreme radiation levels, well, there's really no great magic here. I think there's a little bit of luck, as in the type of radiation in these reactors, though it's a very high intensity, is very low in the gamma radiation range that is so detrimental to optical lenses and computer chips. So that's in part what contributes to our robots being able to keep on running despite the high radiation. I want to show you a quick video of some new technology that iRobot is developing. And it goes again to the motto of the talk: let's take what we have and solve a real need. Because we have a lot of good stuff already. This is not a product yet, it's a technology demonstrator. So we use this to show the potential partners and clients, and then we use this to customize particular applications. For example, we've just made a deal with InTouch Health. They do hospital robots, so we're working with those as one of our first partners. So what is AVA? AVA is short for Avatar, so it's in the remote presence area. It's an app-ready robot, meaning the idea is you can program it with apps, just like your iPhone or your iPad. It has, so you could plug in your pad up here, you can take it out and plug in whatever pad you have, Android pad, iPad, or whatever pad comes out, and it's your user interface, and it's the thing that runs the apps, and it calls upon all the hard robotic stuff that we've wrapped up nicely and that lives in the base. And that's communications, computation, sensing, that permits autonomy. Like we have a whole range of things that you see while the video is running there, like map building, localization, navigation, SLAM, all the good stuff, obstacle avoidance, avoiding people, like you see here, path planning, replanning. When it doesn't get to a certain space, it replans. You can move it around by simply clicking on a map or having write a map that says go to the kitchen. So this lets you basically customize this technology to be your butler. You are get me a beer robot, well, it still needs an arm for that, or a hospital robot, or a remote factory surveillance robot. So that's the idea. Oh yeah, you saw sometimes people are not very helpful, a little obstructive, and the poor robot doesn't have any arm to fight for itself, but it has great memory. It remembers. Now I just want to show you a couple of examples of how the iRobot family is enlarging. Family in the sense that I want to show you quickly 4 companies that also embody sort of the spirit. Let's take what we got a lot of good stuff, and identify a need to get robots out there. So these companies, 4 of them, were either founded by former iRobot employees or iRobot co-founders themselves. The first one, Vigo Communications. The 2 former iRobot employees are here. What are they doing? They basically have something similar to Eva, but it doesn't have any autonomy. You drive it around remotely. It's your remote presence robot. And quite a large number of companies that I visit have these sitting around now. So they enable remote engineers or remote workers to dial in and drive around and participate in meetings or have conversations, hang around the water cooler. Or bosses, while traveling, can check in at home, or could have a couple of these at various subsidiaries to drive around and interact with people. Hopefully being nice about it, not sneaking up on people, just check up on them. Also, several schools have bought these to allow children who are incapacitated or somehow have to be at home to participate in school. It's quite a much different experience than having just a webcam sitting on a desk. They can actually move around with the class from room to room and can interact with the other kids. It's very popular. So it really fills this identified niche here between the most effective way to communicate, like we do, face-to-face, and other existing ways like video conferencing, web conferencing, email, and phone. So right here. Next one, we don't have a lot of information on this, Heartland Robotics. This was founded by Dr. Rodney Brooks. He's one of the original founders of iRobot, who has since left iRobot. So he's running Heartland Robotics. The motto here is machines and humans working side by side. So there's a lot of hope and expectations riding on this company. The premise is that the development here, and again, this is still in stealth mode, so this is all sort of hearsay and what's available semi-publicly, that they will develop low-cost, easy-to-program, easy-to-use factory robots, probably with an arm or 2, that can work side by side with humans in assembly and factory tasks. So the point is to help the heartland, meaning the US manufacturing base, to become more competitive, to keep the jobs in the country. Or to grow, even better, to grow the manufacturing base that has been dwindling for the last decades. Sci-Fi Works, unfortunately also still in stealth mode. This is another company that was founded by one of the 3 former iRobot co-founders, Helen Greiner. What we know is that at least one of the projects that she got funding for, or the company got funding for, is to develop an unmanned aerial vehicle for infrastructure inspection. So to look after roadways, bridges, and dams. So hopefully we'll know soon more when they come out of stealth mode. The 4th and last example is Harvest Automation. Again, these are all Boston area companies. Also founded by 3 former iRobot employees in 2007. And they've spent a couple of years really looking around at all the possible markets, and they identified the nurseries and greenhouses. It sort of came as a surprise to me, but it turns out that that's a over $30 billion market. The huge warehouses that have thousands or tens of thousands of pots sitting around, and they employ hundreds of people, and they do nothing but moving pots around all day. Because these pots somehow need to be moved. They need to be moved from A to B, or they need to be spaced differently because the plants grow. this huge labor demands that right now is filled by migrant labor. It's backbreaking work. And this industry has been hoping for automation or some kind of relief from technology for a long time. And this may be just it. So this is very exciting. So I want to keep it short. Conclude. So all I wanted to say is really, we got so much good stuff. Professor Hirzinger has shown as well, it's in the same spirit, lots of good technology that are spinning out. A lot of this technology is good enough to solve real needs. We really just have to put some of our brains from solving technical problems to figuring out what consumers want and package them up to offer something of value, something useful at a low cost. And that's how we can turn all of our investment from the past 50 years of technology development to the next 50 years of creating a better world with robotics. Thank you.